The NFL draft is always full of surprises, but this year, all eyes were on a single moment that may have defined how franchises saw this tight end class. And it had everything to do with Colston Lovelin. Out of all 32 teams, it was the Chicago Bears who made the move that seemed to hit pause on the trade chaos unfolding during those early rounds. The question now is, was Lovelin truly the top tight end of this draft class? Not just for the Bears, which is already obvious, but across the league. And if so, what does that say about how front offices view potential at the position moving forward? Let's break it down. The draft opened with a whirlwind of activity, especially from teams that were clearly trying to move up. There were calls flying, deals being worked in the background, and scouts frantically comparing grades. But the moment Colston Lovelin's name was called, that activity slowed almost instantly. It was as if he was the guy everyone was trying to get, and once he was off the board, the urgency disappeared. That's not something that happens every year, and it's not something you ignore. In the days that followed, we heard from multiple sources that some front offices were eyeing that exact range where the Bears selected. Had Lovelin slipped just one or two more spots, there's a real chance another team would have made an aggressive move. Before the draft, there was a divide between him and Tyler Warren. Some analysts leaned toward Warren for his physicality after the catch and his ability to lower the shoulder, push through defenders, and grind out yards. But Lovelin offered something else entirely. He represented the next evolution of the position. Agile, modern, fluid in his routes. He's the type of tight end who creates natural separation without needing to force contact. And in today's NFL, where offensive creativity is everything and mismatches rule the day, that kind of skill set is gold. We can't ignore how much age played a factor here either. Lovelin is 2 years younger than Warren. In development terms, that's massive. It means teams aren't just drafting a player who's ready now. They're banking on someone who could still have another physical leap in him. That upside, combined with how he looked in pre-draft evaluations, push him ahead in the eyes of multiple teams. While some boards probably had Warren slightly higher, it seems more and more likely that Lovelin was the preferred option for a larger number of organizations than we initially thought. One of the most telling signs came from reports of teams that had their eyes on moving up, like the Rams and the Chargers. Both were rumored to be circling, watching closely as Lovelin inched closer to that key part of the board. But the Bears jumped first. The Rams, who later took Terrence Ferguson out of Oregon, were especially aggressive in scouting tight ends this cycle. And while Ferguson is a solid pick in his own right, insiders say Lovelin was the real target. It's easy to wonder what might have happened if the Bears hadn't acted when they did. Could we have seen a bidding war? Maybe. But what's clear is that once Lovelin was gone, the phone lines cooled. Here's the thing, though. Selecting Lovelin wasn't just about sniping a prospect from other teams. It was about fit. When you look at what offensive coordinator Ben Johnson wants from his tight ends, it makes perfect sense. Lovelin is explosive in the short and intermediate game, finds the soft spots in zone coverage, and can stretch a seam when needed. He runs sharp routes, especially those deep crossers and options in the middle of the field. And when the quarterback gets off script, that's where Lovelin really shines. He has a natural feel for how to work his way back into the play, keeping himself visible to his quarterback and extending the down. That was a big part of his success at Michigan. Let's talk about that Michigan tape. Watching J.J. McCarthy operate, one thing stood out again and again. When the pocket broke down, when things got messy, Lovelin was the guy who made himself available. His ability to read the quarterback, reposition his body, and create a throwing window was elite. That kind of awareness isn't taught, it's instinct. When you look at some of the NFL's best improvisers at quarterback, guys like Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, you realize how valuable it is to have a tight end who thrives in chaos. Lovelin might not be Mahomes-level dynamic himself, but he can absolutely thrive in an offense built around that kind of playmaking. Physically, he's got the frame you want. At 6'6" and 248 pounds, he already presents a mismatch for most defenders. Linebackers can't match his speed. Safeties can't handle his size. And while he's not the most polished blocker yet, he doesn't need to be. The NFL is full of tight ends who built their reputations as receiving threats first, then developed as blockers later. Think Travis Kelce. Think Antonio Gates. Nobody expected those guys to be maulers at the line. What they brought to the table was more important: reliable hands, route running, and game-breaking potential after the catch. There's a real chance Lovelin could develop into that kind of player. He doesn't need to catch 90 passes in his rookie year. But if he can grab 50 or 60, score a handful of touchdowns, and become a safety valve for Caleb Williams, that's a huge win, especially in an offense that's going to stretch the field vertically and give him space to operate. The Bears aren't asking him to carry the offense. They're asking him to be the kind of mismatch nightmare that keeps defensive coordinators up at night. That's a very different kind of pressure, and Lovelin seems ready for it. The comparisons to Warren are still valid. Warren is a very good prospect. But if you're building an offense for the modern NFL, the preference leans toward players like Lovelin. More versatile, more agile, better suited to take advantage of today's schemes. When you factor in how this coaching staff likes to scheme for yards after the catch, Lovelin's traits just align better. He's more slippery in the open field. He's got a wider catch radius. And perhaps most importantly, he just fits the mold of what teams are now calling the new age tight end. The Bears made their pick, and it wasn't just about talent. It was about projection. There's also this underrated aspect: visibility. Lovelin was on teams' radar early, not just during draft season. Scouts got a close look at him while evaluating other players, particularly when watching Michigan's offense. While the attention was often on J.J. McCarthy, you couldn't help but notice Lovelin popping up consistently. When McCarthy scrambled, Lovelin was there. When the play broke down, Lovelin adjusted. That kind of chemistry is hard to ignore, and it sticks with evaluators when they start comparing notes. Now, looking ahead, there's every reason to believe the Bears got the guy they needed. Someone who could be a cornerstone of their passing game. Someone who gives their new quarterback a big, reliable target. Someone who forces defenses to account for him every time he's on the field. And while it's too early to declare anyone a draft steal or a future star, the signs are there. From how teams reacted on draft night to what the Bears coaches have said since, it's obvious Lovelin was more than just a good pick. He was the guy they didn't want to risk losing. And let's not forget, the entire dynamic of the draft changed when he was selected. You don't see that every year. You don't get moments where a single pick silences the phones and forces other teams to pivot. But that's what happened. That's the kind of move that speaks volumes, even if it doesn't show up on the stat sheet yet. So is Colston Lovelin the top tight end of the class? Maybe not on every single board, but in terms of demand, upside, fit, and modern offensive philosophy, there's a strong case that he absolutely was. The Bears clearly thought so. And by the look of things, they weren't alone. While the first round was all about Colston Lovelin and how his selection might have shifted the draft's energy, the second day brought a different kind of tension. There was an opportunity, maybe even a window, where the Bears tried to make another bold move. Word is they were eyeing a running back, and all signs point to Travion Henderson being that guy. The buzz around the league suggested that Chicago was looking to trade up early in the second round, possibly trying to jump 4 or 5 spots. Tennessee's pick at 35 became a focal point of those rumors. And from everything we've gathered, the Bears had Henderson in their sights as a future complement, or even replacement, for DeAndre Swift. Now, this wasn't about disliking Swift or panicking at the position. This was about vision. Henderson, despite not being the flashiest name on the board, brings a tool set that perfectly fits what modern offenses want out of a running back. He's explosive in space, solid in pass protection, and reliable as a receiver, traits that hint at a player who could grow into a true 3-down back. The idea was simple. If Swift leaves after the season or doesn't produce at the expected level, Henderson would be ready to step in. The plan felt smart. It felt calculated. But like many things on draft weekend, it didn't materialize. Someone else jumped ahead. The Bears couldn't close the gap and missed their shot. What makes it sting a bit more is that Henderson ended up being picked just a few spots ahead, validating the urgency Chicago felt in trying to move up. That's the nature of the draft. Sometimes the board doesn't fall your way, and you're left watching a player you wanted land somewhere else. And when you rewind the footage, replay the conversations, you can almost see the exact moment the front office realized they were going to have to pivot. Still, the Bears didn't just fold. As the rounds continued, they stayed active, reportedly making several attempts to trade up in the fourth round as well. There was a clear desire to land a running back with high upside. The result? They ended up with a seventh-round selection who, despite the lower draft capital, is already generating some quiet excitement. He might not have the top-tier athleticism of a day 2 pick, but he brings qualities that matter. Vision, balance through contact, and a rugged playing style that doesn't rely on flashy traits. And that kind of player can thrive in the right system, especially if given the opportunity to develop. This is where rookie minicamp becomes crucial. It's the first chance to really evaluate what a guy like this can do. Not in shorts and t-shirts where everything looks easy, but in scripted reps, in controlled chaos, with a margin for error tightens. Can he pick up protections? Can he absorb the playbook? Can he do all the little things that earn a rookie touches in September? That's what matters now. But let's be honest, there's only so much you can learn in May and June. Pads aren't on. The hits are fake. The angles are different. You don't really know if a guy can shake off a linebacker or lower his shoulder at the goal line until you get to August. That's when the real evaluations begin. Until then, it's about tracking growth, understanding concepts, and watching how quickly a player adjusts to the pro level. Because this isn't college anymore. It's faster, sharper, and way less forgiving. And the Bears know this. They've built a roster that doesn't desperately need immediate production from a rookie running back. But they're smart enough to know that depth matters. One injury, one cold streak, and suddenly that seventh-round pick becomes the guy. That's why the next few months are huge. It's not just about what you see on tape. It's about what coaches feel in meetings, what teammates say in a locker room, and how a rookie carries himself when things get tough. So where does this leave us? The backfield, while not the weakest spot on the roster, does have some question marks. Swift is talented, no doubt, but he's not elite. And the guys behind him? There's potential, but no guarantees. Same with safety, a couple of injuries there, and things could get shaky fast. That's why these camps, these reps, these depth charts, they matter more than ever. The Bears don't look like a team scrambling for answers anymore. This roster feels organized, intentional. But the true test is still ahead. Training camp will separate the flashes from the fakes. And by the time preseason hits, we'll know exactly which rookies are ready to contribute and which ones are just names on a list. Either way, this is where it starts. Not in September. Now, before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on our Chicago Bears. And don't be shy. Drop your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Chicago Bears head coach Ben Johnson has reportedly made a decisive move that could reshape the team's offensive strategy. He no longer wants running back DeAndre Swift on the roster. The unexpected development has sent ripples through the Bears fan base and the NFL community, raising questions about Swift's future and Johnson's vision for the team. Sources close to the organization indicate that Johnson, who took over as head coach with a reputation for offensive innovation, has grown increasingly dissatisfied with Swift's performance and fit within his system. While Swift joined the Bears with high expectations following a productive stint with the Philadelphia Eagles and a promising start to his career in Detroit, his time in Chicago has not lived up to the hype. Despite flashes of explosive talent, consistency has been an issue, and it appears Johnson is ready to move on. The decision marks a bold stance by Johnson as he continues to mold the Bears in his image. Known for emphasizing discipline, versatility, and precise execution, Johnson reportedly feels that Swift has not met the standards he expects from a feature back. Whether due to injuries, scheme incompatibility, or off-field concerns, the trust between coach and player has eroded, and a parting of ways now seems inevitable. Swift's future remains uncertain. Still relatively young and with a history of production, he is likely to draw interest from other teams in need of a dynamic backfield presence. For the Bears, this move may signal a deeper shakeup within the offense as Johnson searches for players who align more closely with his philosophy. While fans may be surprised or disappointed by the development, Johnson's decision underscores his commitment to building a team that competes at the highest level. With the offseason in full swing, the Bears are expected to explore trade or release options for Swift soon. As the situation unfolds, all eyes will be on Chicago to see who steps up in the backfield and whether Ben Johnson's gamble pays off. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Chicago Bears, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.